What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Hot 10 episode for April 3rd, 2020. A special Ben S. list that I'm really excited to have him go over for you guys. So we're just going to kind of get into it right away. And I'm here with Ben and P-Dub. So Paul, is nice to have you back, brother. We appreciate it. All right, Ben, take it away, brother.
Yeah, so before we get started, just kind of the reason for the weird list this week, and it's probably going to be an odd list for the next few weeks. I was doing just some research, and I think everybody's kind of aware of that stuff might be selling online, and because obviously you can't go to any stores, but stuff's selling, but not necessarily selling at a premium. And my list is based on books that are selling for premiums. So rather than kind of make up facts or, throw in books that went from, it was $1 book and now it's a $2 book, that nobody really cares about. I think it just for the next few weeks until we kind of get through this and actually see books actually starting to really actually move. I just think that it's probably best just to have some fun with it. And, kind of just see where it goes. We'll see what happens next week. It may be something completely different next week. It may be, who knows? It could be all books from the 70s. I don't know. I don't know. It may be all Turtles books, and Paul's going to do it. Who knows?
Five Turtles and 5 Crow books, I think.
Or any listeners out there, you got any suggestions? Throw them our way. Throw them in the comments at comicbookinvest.com on the list itself, or throw them in the comments here on this episode. Before we get started into the actual list itself, I do want to talk about a show we did last week for Tales from the FlipSide, episode 112, where we interviewed Dead End Kids author, creator, Frank Gogol, who is a cool dude. It was really fun to have him on. He really opened up, and it was just an interesting interview, especially to talk to somebody who is getting ready to release a series at this time when everything is going crazy. So if you guys get a chance, go check it out. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And with that said, let's get into the first honorable mention, which is a fun one to me.
Yeah. So what I did on this list, the way I sorted it was 5 or 6 books that I own that I don't want to get rid of, and 6 books that I want and are kind of unattainable at the moment. So that's kind of where it is. And so both honorable mentions are actually Golden Age books. So I took a Golden Age book that I have and a Golden Age book that I want. This first one, World's Finest Comics #3, is one that I want. It is the first appearance of Scarecrow, who just happens to be my favorite villain. It's obviously it's a super expensive book. If you can even find it, they pop up every once in a while, but it's very, very expensive. A 1/8 sold in January for $2,000. So for a 1.8, so that's the kind of price you're looking at there. But at some point, I would like to get this book.
Is the reason for that because of the baseball cover and all 3 being on there, the big 3, I guess, or the big 2 and Robin?
You mean for the price?
Yeah.
Well, it is the first appearance of Scarecrow, and Scarecrow doesn't appear again until the Silver Age. So he's in this one issue, and then he pops up again in the Silver Age. But yeah, it is a cool cover. I do like the cover. I like sports themed covers as well. So having Batman and Robin and Superman playing baseball, it's kind of cool on top of it. But this was from, I think, like 1941 or 42. So it's way back in the Golden Age. This is one of the first, kind of DC issues. It's not very far after, after Batman 1 and stuff like that. So it's way back in the Golden Age.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Next honorable mention. This is a sweet cover, brother.
Yeah. I dig it.
Yeah, so I figured this is probably more up Paul's alley because he does like sci-fi type stuff, But this one, I bought this 3 years ago, and it was kind of one of my first golden age books that I bought, and I asked Z and Ben C initially. I'm like, if I'm still going to start buying golden age, what am I supposed to buy? And they're like, just buy what you like. Because if you like it, somebody else is going to like it too. So just find covers that you like and go with that. Well, this is one that I love. I think it's a gorgeous cover. It is Al Feldstein, so it's got that on top of it. But it's just a cool looking cover. It's obviously the kind of the all things going on the cover there are I just like it a lot. So I did buy a 6.5 copy. I still have it 3 years later. It's old school CGC label. I mean, it's an old label. So at some point I might, it actually presents better than a 6.5. The only thing that brings it down to a 6.5 is down in the bottom right-hand corner. There's probably about the half the size of a piece of tape. There's a piece missing in the bottom right-hand corner. Other than that, the book's gorgeous. So that's really the only thing that detracts from or dropped it down to a 6.5. It probably presents like an 8.5. So it's a cool cover. Paul, you like any of these old science fiction covers?
I like them. I don't have too many. I think it's just I like the colors on there. It's just they all contrast really nice. I like the unless it's not a shadow. I like the shadow on the planet, the larger planet from the.
I like the old school rocket ship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's like 1920s, Metropolis type rocket ship,
Well, and it took me a little bit to figure out what that plane that was coming around. I'm guessing that must be like Jupiter, but I'm not 100% sure which planet they're actually. But it took me a little bit to realize it's almost like a Star Wars type ship. It's not like it. At first, I thought it was a plane flying that way, but it's not. It's actually coming where the things are. It's just that's the way the ship is.
Yeah, it's shot around the moon, shot around Jupiter.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. Very cool. This next cover is my favorite book on the list, or next book is tied for my favorite book on the list. It's a beautiful cover that I'm gonna have to search for now on, and I know how rare it is, but still beautiful, beautiful cover.
Yeah. So this is Lady Death Symphony Nightmare. It's #1. It's the Artgerm. This was a Kickstarter program. Or a Kickstarter that Brian Pulido did for Chaos or whatever, like he always does. Anyways, there was 3 different covers, and they're all serial numbered to 77. There's one there's like a regular, a virgin, and a holofoil. I think is how or maybe it's a regular, a holofoil, and a black and white or something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but as being a kid from the 90s or 80s and 90s, the shiny, refractor holofoil things I like. So, but I would say when the Kickstarter came out to get all 3 covers, it was an $800 or $900 buy-in.
Wow.
On the Kickstarter. That's the only way you could get it. So
is that Cotton Comics?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was too expensive for me. Now, granted, if I would have done it, you could have sold 2 of them off and basically got the 3rd one for free. So honestly, this book is what made me stop collecting the entire run of Artgerm covers, just because there's so few of them. And I at the time I'm like I'm not spending $700-800 on a variant that's not even out yet. At the time when the Kickstarter came out, you didn't even know what the cover art was. So it was not even a thing of, hey, this is really gorgeous, I think it's going to be a hit. It was a thing of, I'm going to spend this kind of money and have no idea what I'm buying.
Wow.
So.
Well, it's beautiful, that's for sure. #9 is a book I know a lot about just because of you, and that's this Animaniacs book.
So, have you guys ever, Paul? Were Animaniacs around when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Okay. One of my favorite all-time shows.
So you're much younger than me, so that's the only reason I asked. When it was out, I was in college, so it was that tells you how old I am. So so mid '90s, I was in college, and we watched this. We would go to class, and then we would come back, and this would be on at 4:00 in the afternoon, and we would all sit around like the community TV and watch Animaniacs in our dorm. So. It always had I'm actually missing like 3 issues from the entire run. I think it was 1 through 56 or 57, something like that. And I think I'm actually missing a few issues. But when I first got back into comics, I still had my number 1, and it was perfect. And so I went ahead and sent it off to CBCS and got it graded. So it's got the the very first CBCS label, and it came back in 98. So I still have that. I've got a bunch of other ones that I would like, but this one that was like the first book I ever graded, and it's Animaniacs. So I'm not getting rid of it anytime soon. But
yeah, and this next book is the book that was tied with that Artgerm cover. Love this cover, man. House of Mystery, a very underrated run. And this is House of Mystery 247 with the surfing skeleton.
I think it's cool. What do you think about it, Paul?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't change a thing about it. Z might throw a shark in there, but I think it looks great the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a bizarre looking cover. But I think the red skyline adds to it. But yeah, there's a lot of these, but it's not necessarily the book. I mean, it is the book. But a lot of these books that I don't have, I want in a 9/8. I want them, it's kind of like the things that you want to hold forever is you start getting those higher grades, and the volume or the numbers of books that you can actually find dwindles quickly. This one especially, there's only 1 9/8 on the census. So,
wow.
So it's super hard to get in 9/8 grade. I've seen it. I've got a really bad copy, and I've seen it a couple other times that it's probably like a 7.5, and I won't buy it. I want a 9/8 copy. So if one ever pops up again, I don't know whether or not it's one of those that when you see it, you're like, you better buy it or you're not going to see it again. But I mean, I would assume that probably a 9/8 would probably go for a couple $100. So I would need to have the cash at the time, but
Yeah.
Cool cover, man. All right, on to number 7.
Yeah, so we talked about this one on one of the FlipSide shows a long time ago when we did like our favorite 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You actually got this too, didn't you, Paul?
Yeah, like it was that night or the next day or something.
I mean, it's
bought a couple of the black and white Jurassic Park covers, and yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, so this is Jurassic Park number 4. This is the Bernie Wrightson incentive sketch variant. It's just so awesome looking, and it's Bernie Wrightson. I mean, and it's a sketch of a T-Rex. I mean, how awesome is that? It's like in some little girl's bedroom or something. I don't know. It's so incredible that how in the world nobody knows about this book. I think it's just, and you just don't see it. You don't see it for sale. I'm glad you were able to find it, Paul, because I don't see. I mean, I even looked before I put this list together, and there's none for sale.
Did you look? Yeah, you didn't see it, huh?
No, I mean, there's none. There's none available. There was none sold in the last 90 days either. So it's just not out there.
I don't know where I got mine from. I don't know if it was from my comic shop, and I just, no one knew about it, and you mentioned it, so who knows what I was drinking that night? I snatched it up. Yeah, I bought a few of those sketch covers. I think that's the best one, though.
It is. I mean, there's a few other ones. I think the number 3 issue is an Art Adams.
That's the Triceratops one, right?
Some of them are Virgin covers too.
Yeah, so this one just looks cool. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but in '93, it's really funny. I talked to a friend of mine that I knew back in high school, and something. Oh, it was when Jurassic, the newest one with Chris Pratt came out or whatever, and he sent me a message on Facebook and said, "Man, I remember it back when the first Jurassic Park movie came out, how big of a fan you were of that." And I'm like, was I really that? Because I love that movie. I mean, it's like one of my all-time favorite movies, but I didn't realize that I was that big of a fan to where somebody I hadn't seen in 20 years remember that I was that big of a fan of it. But yeah, so anything Jurassic Park, I love. So
my brother and I would watch the first one almost every time we'd go to my grandmother's house. It just, the day would drag on and we'd just get bored, and he would watch, my brother would put on Bob Ross, and I don't know, at the time I just hated Bob Ross at that time. I was just like this boring painting show, and then every now and then, after that, it would be like, "Hey, you want to watch Jurassic Park again?" I'd pop in the VHS at that time.
Oh yeah.
Brian, if I ever find one, I'll send it to you. But I've not found another one. I've got one copy, and I've never found another one.
It's badass, man. That's for sure. All right, on to number 6.
So this is an odd one because I'm not a Punisher fan at all. But this is Punisher number 11. This is the Tim Duncan variant. I think it's from Heroes and Fantasies. I think it's where it's from, which I think is a store somewhere in, I guess maybe in Houston or San Antonio. I'm not really sure, but it's Tim Duncan. That's supposedly Tim Duncan's car as well. So it's Tim Duncan and his car. But what I want on this is a signature series version of this, only because it's Tim Duncan, and I still am, but I mean, back in the 90s and 2000s, huge Spurs fan, but because we don't have an NBA team here in Cincinnati, but so when I saw that there was a Tim Duncan variant, I'm like, oh man, I would really. It's weird. Some of the signature series that I would actually like or have nothing to do with comics, like I would want a Tim Duncan signature series or a either a Donald Trump or a Barack Obama or a George Bush signature series. Like those would be so cool because they're so different than just having the artist, where he signs 4 million of them. There would be very, very few of these signed by Tim Duncan, I would think. Yeah,
I think it's cool. All right, on to number 5. This is a beautiful, beautiful cover.
Amazing Spider-Man 692, the 1970s variant. I just love this cover. I mean, I think it made the Hot 10 list a long time ago, and that's when I first saw it. I'd never seen this book before, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to find that book. And I happened to find it probably about 4 months ago. It was in a short box somewhere, and I was like, oh my gosh, I found it. It's gorgeous. It's just all that dead red space it's just, I don't know. It's just a perfect I think it's a gorgeous cover.
It's heart-wrenching too, the way he's holding her and she's dead. And
yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a book with the barcode in that position or that spot, unless I'm wrong.
It is a weird spot, but I think they almost had to.
It looks great.
Yeah, they didn't want to ruin the cover. They picked a good spot to put it. If they had to put it somewhere, too bad it's there. But if they had to put it somewhere, that might be the best spot.
Yeah.
That's
beautiful.
Beautiful.
On to number 4.
We got Eerie, number 7. And I want this in a 9.8. You can find this in lower grades a lot of times. But again, I don't want a lower grade. I want a 9.8 because anybody can find these things in low grade. Finding them in high grade is virtually impossible. It's just this to me is just absolute gorgeous art. I don't own a Frazetta original cover on anything. I have some of the Death Dealers and stuff that were reproduced later, but nothing original. But this, I don't know what this about the way this looks. It just looks like something out of like Game of Thrones or something. It just has that look of it's just magnificent.
Reminds me of the sirens from Odyssey.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why some of these covers just stand out, and this one just stands out to me.
I love when you come across the Eerie collection or a creepy collection or, these old magazines, these old horror magazines, and you just got a lot of them in one place. You kind of get giddy, like, ooh, let's see what we got here, Some of these things are beautiful, beautiful covers.
Yeah, all of them are beat to death. I mean, they just all are. So the fact that there's even 3 9/8 out there is amazing to me. But yeah, I would like to get a 9/8 of this, especially with that all black. I mean, it's just, I can't. How in the world is there a 9/8 of this?
Yeah, beautiful. All right, on to number 3. One of the few really good J. Scott Campbell covers out there, in my opinion. Like one of his best.
It's okay. So this one is just bizarre. It's Elephantmen number 31, and it's an incentive variant, just a 1 in 15. But obviously, no retailers bought Elephantmen. The fact that they got J. Scott Campbell to do some of these covers on some of these variants is amazing. I've seen in the past 5 years, I've seen this for sale one time, and I bought it. That's the only time I've ever seen it for sale. There's almost like a trade paperback or a special edition or something that has this cover, but the M where it's, or like where the bar or the image thing with the M is all the way up at the top. So that's not what this issue is. This is the incentive. I found it once. The guy had it listed wrong. He didn't have it listed as a variant. He had it listed as something. I mean, basically just said Elephantmen. I think he even had the wrong issue number. It said like number 32 or something. Like it wasn't even the right issue number. So I happened to I stumbled on it, and I'm like, he had it for like $15. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and hit, even though it had like $15 or best offer, I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and hit buy it now, right now, and just hope that this thing ships. And when I got it in, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I found this thing. There has to be less than 100 copies of this. Cause I've never seen it for sale. And I think the Elephantmen that month didn't even make the top 300. I don't even think it listed on Comic-Con, which means I think there had to have been less than of just a regular number 31. I think there's less than 2,000 copies of those. So then you go to a 1 in 15, and that's assuming that everybody. I mean, who ordered 15 copies of Elephantmen? I'm not even sure Midtown would order 15 copies of Elephantmen. So I was very, very happy to find that one. I'll never find it again, which is probably why it's just going to just sit in my collection, just because most people probably don't even know what this is. But
I love when I see J. Scott Campbell art where it's not a chick. I want to see, you know what I mean? Like, this is really good. I mean, there's a female on the cover, but it's good to see other J. Scott Campbell stuff behind her.
Yeah, like he diversified his art style, it looks like, which is nice. Like it.
There's all kinds of things going on here with the elephant dude and the camel dude, and I don't think this is a wraparound. I have to take it out of the bag, but yeah. So, anyways, that's why I put it there.
Very cool. All right, on to number 2.
2 is just a classic cover. This is Batman 227. Again, I want this in a 9/8. I have a low grade copy, but I want a 9/8 copy of this. 9/8 copies are going to run me probably more than $7,000. So it's definitely on the grail side. Like I would have to sell off a large chunk of my collection to be able to pay for it. Which I might do at some point. I might bite the bullet and just say if one pops up, because they only pop up maybe like once a year. And just, I think some of these ultra classic covers, if you can get them in the nosebleed grade section, I think they're as safe as you can possibly. I don't think that you're going to lose money on those at any time, but just because they just don't come up often enough. And then once they finally do, the people who do want them are just going to buy them, whatever the cost is. So it's a classic Neil Adams. Honestly, I think Neil Adams from the late 60s and 70s with his horror stuff is as good as it gets. I think it's just magnificent.
I agree 100%. All right, on to number 1, which is it was weird to see this book on this list, but I like the explanation. So
yeah, so this is just it's DC Comics Presents number 26. Obviously, the first appearance of the Teen Titans. The copy that I have is a 9.6. It's not a 9.8. I would like to probably have a 9.8, but the only reason that this one is probably the most important book in my collection is because a friend gave it to me, already graded. Just gave it to me. Just gave it to me as just being a friend, and wrote a nice little letter with it and said, "Hey, this is just a basically for being my friend. I just wanted to give you this." And I'm like, wow, this is like so awesome. This is obviously, even if I found a 9.8 and somebody said, "Hey, you want to trade this 9.6 for the 9.8?" I think I would still keep this 9.8 or this 9.6. I don't think I would even get rid of it. It's just that it just kind of represents something more than what the comic is actually. Now obviously it's a really good, cool comic. I'm sure a lot of people would really like to have a 9.6 copy of this. But just the story behind it. And I was hoping that, that some other people would have some stories similar to that. I mean, do you guys have like some stories about?
Oh, yeah.
I like hearing those type of things.
I have a lot of stuff. Matter of fact, my brother is walking behind me. One of the things that kind of is in that field is when my brother was sick with the cancer, and you guys were a big part of this. You too, both of you, Paul and Ben, and a lot of the guys on the show. So a lot of guys I can name were a part of this, and it is why it's so important to me. They sent trade books.
Thanks again, guys.
You guys sent a big box. You did a roll call around CBSI, and you said, "Hey, if anybody has any trades to send him, that he can read while he's doing his chemo," because my brother was doing chemo, not just like 4 hours, going in and sitting down for 4 hours. It was 7 straight days, and then 5 days off, and then 14 straight days, and that just kept going and going and going. So he was going crazy, and all one day a big box, a massive box of trades just ended up on our doorstep, and I still have every single one of those trades, and they're sitting in my I have better trades, better storylines, this and that I could put up and show off, but those are in my bookcases, because they meant so much.
Right.
So, that's cool stuff.
Yeah, that was before I knew you had long hair.
Well, otherwise you wouldn't have given you anything. Hippie.
Very cool. I love the list this week. I appreciate that you did it. It was nice to kind of have a little change in this kind of thing that's going on right now, and it was fun to go over. So I appreciate that, brother. And one more time before we kind of call it a night. If you guys can, go ahead and like and subscribe. We'd appreciate it. And check out Tales from the Flip Side. We just did a recent show with Frank, the writer of Dead End Kids and No Heroin, a new series he's got coming out. Very cool interview, a lot of fun, and I really hope you guys can check it out. You guys got anything else?
Nope, that's it. I appreciate you guys all just kind of bearing with us, and just make sure everybody stays safe. Everybody keep your distance, follow the rules. Let's get through this thing so we can get back to normal.
Amen. Amen. All right, guys, we're out. See ya.